Hey guys, we have our very first discussion controversy here with GDS. So off the air, as always, we had great comments, so that's why we have to begin recording. So I am Javier, this is Gamers, Developers and Scholars, and joining me today are...
Hi, I'm Ladyem.
Hey, I'm Poppy Wild.
And if you guys want to hear more about critical discussions of games with different areas of our industry, please like, comment and share. I just got a notification that we got a lot of traffic, but since I always forget to say these commercials, people don't like, comment and subscribe. And it really helps so that we get to meet more people like you. So, very first question. Did you guys enjoy the gameplay? Very oriented towards Anne, who was blowing our mind just now.
Yeah, I cannot get into this gameplay at all. Like I tried, and it is not for me.
Let us know why. What happened?
It just mechanically it makes sense, but it's just boring, and it's not something that I really want to go through and play. Like I got tired of it very, very quickly. I was like, I cannot force myself to play this. So
interesting.
I have instead watched playthroughs so that I can see somebody else suffer. And
no worries. Totally valid. And I believe that it's potentially not an issue that it is not the kind of game that you play, because here we're constantly playing all kinds of games, so that happens all the time. But I wonder, is there something in particular that has been jarring for you? Is it the actual cards? Is it the balance of the mechanics? What has not been working for you?
I think I just realized, like, I don't like card games. Like, any games that are card-based, I don't like it. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, the Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories was card-based, and I didn't like that game either.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a thing with me that, like, card-based games are not for me, and...
Interesting.
So I know that it does some interesting things with the cards here, but I just...
No worries.
Nope.
And I believe that it is like the hook for this game that many people believe it is a card game. Naturally, that will attract some. In your case, it's not working. I am very, let's say, promiscuous. There should be a better word, but I am very promiscuous in my gameplay. I will play anything. But I do enjoy a bit, let's say, the aesthetic experience of cards. Even real life cards, I so enjoy that, let's say, tarot. Even though I am an atheist, I so enjoy like the vibe, the design of the cards. So many have symbolic elements. So in this case, even though I'm not a fan of card games, I have been enjoying the experience. And now, Poppy, I wonder, what do you think of Anne's remarks?
Well, I disagree, but I do get it. I do get it because
Totally valid, yeah.
I can totally see that if you, like you say, if you don't like it, then there is so much of doing that thing. Then yeah, it's just not going to be at all fun. So I think that for me, it took. I think because I kind of like. So I'm interested to know, like, Anne, how much of the kind of like exploring around the room, how much of that did you do?
A little bit of it, and then I gave up on this very quickly. I really did, because I could not do it. And luckily I found a really nice no commentary gameplay video that was like 8 hours of me watching somebody else play this game. And the exploration parts are good, and I like that part, and I like the ideas of the puzzles. All that is fantastic. It's just the actual card part that I cannot get through. And
sure.
So I mean, everything else they did well. Good job. And again, it's not to say the card part is bad. It's just not for me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that that's important to mention.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's really interesting actually, because I think this is the first card video game that I've played. Like, I've played it when you've got like mini games where there's cards like within the main,
like that, yeah. Final Fantasy. Yes.
But yeah, I've not played like, and one of my students was sharing the Voice of Cards games as well, and I mentioned Inscryption because this is the first one I've played. So I was first drawn to it more because of it kind of saying this, like, because of it mentioning the escape room element, and so I hadn't kind of realised there was as much cards as there is, and as you say, like, there's a lot of cards. But I think that for me, it took a while for me to learn, like, the tactics and what all of the different cards meant and how they actually, like, basically when I first started playing the card game, I didn't know how to play it. Like, I was just like choosing random cards and like hitting buttons, and it was literally just like luck as to whether I was getting anywhere. So I think then once I started to actually kind of learn the card game, I got more into it and saw the sense in it. And then, but there was a big period in the middle where, like, when there was a different map, and I'm wary of not knowing where Javier is, but when there was the different maps, like, I just died so many times and was like, how do you get past this? And so it was just like, playing the cards like super quickly, just like trying to like get a good configuration of cards, a good deck, trying to like get better death cards that I could then get into my deck, learning the map better, all of that kind of stuff. And so I think I kind of took a few different approaches, which was, like, say, like, firstly just completely haphazardly with the cards, didn't know what I was doing, and didn't really know how important that was either, which, like, say, kind of sounds stupid when you then have played it more. Then I started to actually like learn it and realize what was going on. Then sometimes was like really strategic, and then other times, like I say, just got to the point where I was dying loads and was like, right, I'm just gonna like bash through this, and eventually completed Act 1. But yeah, I can totally see that if you aren't enjoying that part, then you have to do a lot of it. So yeah.
And it is very good that we have, let's say, different experiences playing this game. I believe, Shelly, you have mentioned in previous episodes that sometimes you also watch, like Anne did, the playthrough of games. In this case, have you played it, watched it? I wonder, have you found it fun? I believe you have found it fun, even though you were just watching the gameplay, right?
Yeah, all I did was watch the gameplay, because, like Lady said, card games are just not my thing. I have the worst luck with them.
Oh, I see.
That also would include my tarot cards.
So, watching the playthrough, has it been fun for you, even though it's not your kind of game?
It's still, I find it entertaining that I feel like when you take a different path, you lead to something different. Like, I feel like it's AI generated. Like, it probably won't be the same.
So in that sense, I can understand how that impression can be. I believe, for example, the layout of the maps maybe has some element of randomness. Not the exact elements will always be in that same place. Also, for example, the boss battles, since I died a lot of times, I get the impression that those are more or less the same every time. I so love that we've had very different experiences.
I if anyone were to watch my playthrough, it would be so incredibly boring, because, like, Anne, you said that you watched it in like 8 hours. Like, it took me, how long did it take me to get to, I think it took me 11 hours just to get to the end of Act 1. And so, like, it just got to the point where it was just sheer stubbornness on my part for, like, not giving in. I was like, I'm sure this must be doable, like, this must be possible.
Of course.
And I think as well, I didn't know whether, when I was dying loads and loads, I was like, it's a really odd game for not knowing how much is it to do with luck and how much is it to do with skill.
Yeah.
Right? And so, at first I thought I was really bad because of skill, and then I was like, no, I think I'm just having really bad luck. And then I was like, when I got to that point, that's when I was like, well, I'm just going to keep playing really, really quickly. To just like wait until I get a good configuration of cards. And yeah.
It is very interesting that you're mentioning how you differentiate between luck and skill in this game, because not in video games, but games as a whole, that is a very important, deep question about how much one relates to the other. The very first game that we know of is the I Ching from China. So this was a divinatory text, and supposedly you had to pick a random page of this huge book that had been written along centuries by a lot of different wise people across eras, and it would read your luck. It would tell you your destiny, supposedly. So for a long time, Westerners were like, is that really a game? Because, well, you're just picking something. But according to the Chinese, luck is intrinsically a part of what you control, and your destiny is a curious outcome out of your decision. It's not as distinguished as we in the West do. Then in Rome, it is also beautiful how Julius Caesar, for example, he has a phrase about how the die are cast when he eventually invaded Rome. So again, we have this play of, well, I am the one throwing, in this case, the cards, and let's see what happens. So at least for me, since let's say I can never control naturally what the developer will do, I always go from the assumption that I can control the outcome as a player. And even though I'm not an expert in card games, that did lead me to question myself, just on the card game, how can I create a better strategy? So I never thought, like you were saying, that let's play quickly, I was also very boring in my playthrough, but because I was constantly studying every card and thinking ahead of what kind of deck I want to build, but that led me to ignore the escape room aspect. I believe I very much discovered that aspect because of our conversation last time. Yeah, I was so focused. Unfortunately, I did get to a very interesting place. Well, I believe we can at least comment all the way into the end of Act 1, right? Because, yeah, that's something that we can all spoil. So that allowed me, I believe, to defeat that part, but in fewer hours. I was able to do that in about 7 hours. Yeah, 6 hours, 7 hours. I love that boss fight. Well, I thought it was the end of the game, and it wasn't. Yeah. Any thoughts on that? I'm not sure if you guys have seen that.
I just absolutely loved the end of Act 1. And I think because it's funny because, yeah, when like I say, it was like 11 hours for me to get to that point. And so when I like finally got there, we talked a bit last time, hadn't we, about how we'd seen I'd seen some visuals which I hadn't come across yet, and so I was interested to see like where that might come from.
Googling,
but then the actual, but then the end of Act 1, I just wasn't expecting like
Blair Witch vibes, something like
any
that.
of that to happen. Yeah, that kind of Blair Witch vibes, and the like camera, and that whole kind of like meta narrative on the game. So I loved it, like totally thought it was worth it, because like I say, by then I'd been like playing so long. So yeah, I really appreciated that, because I just was not expecting it at all, and especially because of what the aesthetic of the game had been. I thought it was like an interesting way of bringing in the retro elements of the game, and then what the game then kind of goes on to look like at the start of Act 2 is then obviously like another visual layer.
I want to see that.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it, and
especially
I loved as well.
You experienced that as an ending, right? Like the real ending, when you were just completing the boss fight, based, I believe, on your playtime hours, right? So
yeah,
you were surprised, maybe.
No, because
Or you already knew
someone
that
had
something
said,
else?
yeah, I can't remember who, but I think someone said last time that they'd looked it up and it was like 20 to 25 hours gameplay. So
Jack
I was like,
mentioned that.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a shame.
But so I kind of knew there would be something.
Sure.
But where like exactly have you got to, Javier? Because
Sure.
there's like a thing that you have to do, which I think is a really interesting like mechanic of the game, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
But it took me like a little minute to figure it out, so I don't want to.
So I just got back to the map again to play as normal. The only change that I witnessed is that the winner card is on the door. Myself, the winner. So I fought against the supposedly boss with the moon. I defeated him. I saw all of the real life action videos, but I was loaded back into the game, and apparently so far it's like a normal gameplay, except for that there is this winning card, myself, who has won, who has defeated the game, and I'm at the door. It's a small card, but it is there. That didn't happen with you?
At all.
Wow.
So
it's magical to discover. And fortunately, since I have been recording my maybe boring gameplay, or maybe not so much anymore, I have exactly like what are the previous minutes, so you can see them if you.
I might have just forgotten. So Anne, do you know what bit Javier is talking about from when you watched it on the playthrough?
I don't remember there being a winner card on the door. Because what I saw was like they beat the boss with the moon and then moved to Act 2 and had a different scenario.
Yeah. So I think
the let's say the dungeon master did say something. He was complaining that guy beat me, but he is speaking as if I'm a new player. He even said this is your starting deck, as if I had died again.
Okay, so yeah, I think that the thing that I was saying that it took me a minute to figure out.
I haven't figured it out.
No.
I'm pretty sure that's the case. I'm pretty sure. Because I was like, I had already given up in terms of reaching the end of this part 1. Maybe I haven't reached it yet, because I had heard that it takes more than 10 hours. But last night I unexpectedly finally beat the one of the pelts boss, and then I got into the supposedly final boss fight. So I was hooked, and I tried to complete it, and I was able to complete that. But when I was back in the room, I said, that's it, I have to sleep a bit. I want to continue.
I'm trying to remember that, because there's definitely like more after the moon bit, but if you've already seen the videos,
there was the moon. There was also like I saw how the cabin looked from the outside, and that I was walking towards
this is the bit that I'm okay. So then you walked to the cabin, and then
I was able to choose 2 special features, 2 additional capabilities. I got to see the live action clips, and I'm back as if I had died. But there's this now new card of the winner.
I am so confused now, because I don't remember. I'm glad that Anne is also confused. So yeah, I also don't remember any winner on the door.
There's a good expression in Spanish by the reaction that Anne is saying, that Anne has, and that is chido tu coto, chido tu cotorreo, and that would be something like, your trip sounds cool, man. Like I'm speaking of something no one has seen. Weirdly.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it's the thing that I'm thinking of. But if it's not, then I don't know whether I should say. So at one point, I'll say this. At one point, I got stuck in a place, like, so kind of in, I can't remember what order it came in, but kind of like in this area of this kind of time. I got stuck in the place where I could, so this boss's name is Leshy, the guy who we've been at the table with all the time.
Okay.
So I got stuck in this position where I could look through the window. So I'd gone through like the escape room door sort of thing, and then I was in this other room, and I could see through a tiny slot, and I could see the table, and I could see Leshy, and there was nothing I could do in the room. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Okay.
There's nothing you can click.
Yeah.
There's nothing at all.
Beautiful.
And then you have to do something that you haven't been able to do before.
Ah, okay. I look forward to that. I like that this game questions, let's say, some standard practices, the current canon in game development. For example, I had a conversation with Erasmo, with our lead designer, and he was telling me we have to add this feedback for the player, otherwise they will be too lost. And I'm like, guys, look at Inscryption. There's like no input about what you should press, and I'm constantly clicking the wrong cards. I'm discovering what I can interact with, and it works. Naturally, there's, let's say, more flexibility, I believe, in Inscryption than in many AAA games, many standard games. Why? Because in Inscryption, the world is far smaller. It is feasible, even though taxing, that you can click everything, like in old games, and discover what may up. In contrast, let's say, if we gave this lack of feedback and clear UI to Breath of the Wild or a massive game, and you have to click everything there, that becomes suddenly impossible, not enjoyable. I am liking that this game is questioning some of the canon that usually you don't see or hear too much in professional conferences. Another one is to question, to break the fourth wall. Since many horror games have done that in the past, developers now say that you shouldn't do that anymore because that is already seen. But this game is doing it well. I mean, every resource in games, in any art, can be done well if you have a clear purpose, if it's done well. In this case, I like that these resources are well used.
I like what you're saying about the whole, like, clicking around thing. I don't know if any of you guys have played the Zero Escape series, but that is also an escape room puzzle type adventure visual novel. And the good thing about that one is that they just kind of throw you in a room and say, like, all right, figure it out. But as you click around, like, even if it's not relevant at all to solving it, you'll get dialogue. So you can get some of the best dialogue in the game just from clicking around to see, like, what the heck am I supposed to do to get out of this room.
Nice.
And I love that. I love that, like, they're rewarding you in a sense for exploring.
Yeah.
And so, like, that idea of just, like, clicking is fun to me. I do enjoy that.
Oh, I wish more people heard that, more developers. And it's good that now we are recording. Many times you hear the comment that gameplay drives games. Naturally, it is, of course, the cornerstone of our medium. My camera is acting up. Just a minute. I will turn off, turn on. Okay. So, we believe, many developers, that the more complex or the more flashy the animations are, that is good gameplay, and not necessarily. I believe that it just has to be fun for the player. The act can be as complex or as neat or as simple, depending on the kind of game that we're creating, depending on the kind of audience. I totally understand if, let's say, when I couldn't read English and I was playing Super Nintendo, if I had a English text heavy game, probably it wouldn't have been as interesting as it can be for me now. So in the case of indie games, like we have appreciated before, it's good that we have more experimentation and that now players are appreciating this instead of just, let's say, the sometimes not well articulated enough articles like there is a drive either to mobile simple games that sometimes you hear players saying that those are bad games, or to the AAA pushing the technology frontier. And there's so much game in between, there's so much that we can do in between, and I like that we're experimenting that and appreciating that here.
I really love the aesthetic of the game of Inscryption, and I think that it's really, like I say, I think that it's well done when they bring in the real world and the like found footage videos, because it's still, like with him having like the floppy disk and stuff like that, it still kind of links in with that. I think it's so in, I'm trying like not to massively spoil it now, but so in Act 2, in Act 2 there's like, so in Act 2 the aesthetic is, I'm going to say like two things. So the aesthetic is different, and there are more cards. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about Act 2. But there's so far, and so you know, there's a whole, and obviously the space. Well, not obviously.
There's so much you want to comment, and I look forward to actually reaching that.
But there's one, so far I've had one point where the camera battery like flashes up, like overlaid on the screen, and it's just happened once so far. It just like came up like with the camera battery, and it said like 400 minutes or something, and so I don't know how much more that will happen, because I think the thing is that I'm kind of concerned about now is the end of Act 1 like into Act 2 was so kind of transformative in terms of like just doing these kind of really unexpected things. Now that I'm in Act 2, I can see very clearly like the next things that I need to do, and that's seemingly like the part that I can see and I understand of what I need to do is quite like laid out, makes sense, I get it. What I don't know is like what happens at the end of Act 2, and is there another, look at Anne, she's like, I know. I didn't have to play any of your card games, but I know.
Also, Game Boy's trying to remove my earphones here, so I'm trying to make sure that I can still hear you guys while he's
he has
doing
his own
his
input.
thing.
Maybe he knows what happens. Maybe he knows the answer. So you're saying, Poppy, that you don't know what will happen in terms of narrative?
Yeah, because the narrative section that I'm in at the moment and the gameplay, like I understand, I know what I'm doing, and I know, and there's been like a hint to like a next bit, but it kind of feels now like it would be disappointing if that was just it, because now I'm like, well, what about, you know, the guy, the I was going to say the human guy, you know, the physical person who we've seen. What happens with him?
It is a very hard balance.
So I'm, like I say, I was interested when I saw like just this camera overlay flash up, because I thought, oh, okay. And I think there was one other bit where you hear him speak again, but so
I'm just whoa at one point.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, I was
what does he say?
I think he says "whoa" at some point when you're playing. Like there's a weird text box that goes at the bottom that says "whoa" or "wow" or something like that, and it's very clear that that's somebody else speaking.
Sure.
Yeah.
You even get the effect of the TV when he speaks.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, is that going to build? Is there going to be more of that as I go through Act 2? I
believe so. I hope so. It is a very hard balance. I hope so too,
because, like I say, I loved the end of Act 1 so much that then I'm like, I want to see more of how they incorporate more of that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Because, like, what I'm doing now, like, say I get it, there is additional stuff, there's additional like space and additional cards, but you get a sense of the wider narrative, but I'm like, but what, you know, but like what else?
Yeah, because you're a very sophisticated player, so you know that they have promised, they have teased a bit, but it is also very easy to mess it up. For example, in these Blair Witch movies, the very first one was super impactful. It was on movies the very first time that, well, for many people...
No, it was terrible.
I didn't watch it when it went live, but I know that, let's say, in terms of film history,
No,
like, the return
It was
on
unique for the
investment,
time.
Yeah,
It was, yeah, exactly.
was massive.
Exactly.
But there came copycats like Second, Third, so many other movies of found footage, and it wasn't as impactful anymore. In terms of games, I like that I had heard that there was one game that was presenting itself in marketing, that it was a game from the 80s that was rediscovered recently. Maybe this is the game, because to be honest, this is the only game that sounds like that. So there are a few elements there that would help it to bring freshness to this fourth wall aspect. Fortunately, like the original Blair Witch project, it doesn't have to be way too complex in order to surprise, because it is somewhat fresh in our medium. I can't tell you of many games that do this. Of games that maybe change midpoint about what's the story, yeah, I have seen that. Portal, for example, there are others. But even presenting to you this fresh gameplay, this other layer of gameplay, that is something constant of this game that I am enjoying.
Well, what's I think quite interesting about Act 2 as well, with like where I am at in it, is that actually there's less elements of the gameplay. There's fewer elements of gameplay, because in Act 1 we had the cards and the escape room element, and the additional puzzles that you were doing in the escape room. And so far for me in Act 2, there's no other elements. It's just the cards.
Interesting.
So like say you've got more cards, you've got more faces, you've got a sense of the overarching narrative now, but you don't have as many game mechanics as
that
you
is
did.
calming for me, because like I mentioned, I had been ignoring the escape room just so that I was not
you'll be
losing
fine.
so
You'll
much.
be fine.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting as well, like in terms for Anne, because I guess it really, again, it's like if you had been persevering through Act 1, like thinking that you were going to get kind of more puzzle payoff in Act 2, then I think based on my experience so far, yeah, you would be disappointed. So I think you made the right choice to like give up swiftly.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially after watching it, I realized like, yeah, this is not something that I could have forced myself through. I would have just gotten angry at the game by that point, and like that's not. I don't want to.
No,
I don't want to put that on the game. That like it's not your fault.
Sure.
That I don't like the cards. Like I wanted to mention earlier, Final Fantasy VIII is one of my favorite games of all time. Triple Triad. So, like card games are not for me.
Sure. For example, we have mentioned that we enjoy Final Fantasy VIII, the card game that is there. Do you
Triple
enjoy?
Triad? Yeah,
That was
Triple
the one.
Triad.
Okay.
It is well known as like one of the greatest card games and video games. And I was like, no, I'll just completely ignore it unless
Me too.
I am
For
forced
example,
to
that
do
one I
anything.
also ignored it. I didn't even remember the name of it. Okay.
Yeah, there's one in Final Fantasy IX as well that like you're required to play it once, and that's the only time I play it. But yeah, I would have been really, really upset if I had gotten through, because the escape room parts of it, like I love playing escape room style games. I love that. It's something that I really, really enjoy, which is why the Zero Escape series is like one of my favorites. But if I had gotten to Act 2 and like had gone through that, I would have been so mad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But one thing I do want to say is that, you know, we've got a lot of like Chekhov's guns set up here, like a lot of them just ready to go in terms of this gameplay. So, or the story really. I'm interested to see like how they pop off for you guys and what you end up thinking.
Yeah. What will be the next controversial round in the future episode? So, I believe it would be fun, maybe, to have some predictions. Do you guys think that the live action element, for example, do you think that will end up in a satisfying note, or maybe it won't?
I will refrain since I already know the answer.
Reading your reaction.
Yeah, looking in her eyes. I think, like I say, based on the fact that there's the flash of the camera and the wow, I assume that it will come back in. I suppose I think the other thing that's slightly confusing with that character is whether we are supposed to be him.
Yeah, I have
right?
been thinking
because,
that. Yeah.
Because when you finish, I don't know if you will have done this, Javier. This is so I can't remember like what order it comes in, but
Play, Javier. Play more so that Poppy can comment.
well, it's not like a huge spoiler, so I'll say because you might have done this.
Go ahead.
So when you beat Leshy at some point, which I like to say where you're at has confused me because I don't know.
Fortunately, there's
when
the video. I'll show it to you later.
Yes, yeah, I'm really interested to know because I wonder if it's a part that I just like bypassed or if I just blanked it from my memory. But when you beat Leshy at some point, the guy who you've seen in the videos, we'll call him Charles because Charles isn't with us today. So Charles goes, "Oh my god, I beat him!" And that's when you beat him.
Yeah.
Right? So then I'm like, so are we supposed to be Charles?
Yeah,
because
right.
we're saying like, because we're going, oh my god, I beat him, and we've got that. Again, we've got like that empathetic connection there with Charles. But then we see Charles off, in the video recordings. Mm-hmm. As Anne said, like when Charles then says like, wow, when the video flashes up in Act 2, I'm like, again, am I supposed to be him? Is he supposed to be my character? And so I don't know whether I expect there will be some more introduction to Charles like later in Act 2, but I don't know whether that's as in me being Charles or me seeing Charles. So that's I don't know what that was a really like long way round avoiding making any guesses.
No worries, but it is an interesting question.
Just questions. Yeah.
I have also wondered myself, for example, I interpreted it that potentially that could be the developer. So we commented last time that in contrast with many games, this is almost a one-person project. Daniel is the developer behind this game. So I wish, because it would be very interesting, that that person is in fact the developer. That may be wishful thinking on my part, because usually, let's say we developers it's just the standard formula of games that we developers don't pop up that much in the in-game content. It could be done, and that's what I'd love if this were in fact the developer, but I'm not sure. So my hope is that I will be satisfied by the ending in terms of the live action, but I know that I always celebrate experimentation. So you had mentioned so much, you had spoiled so much, Poppy, and still, because no worries, and still I was very surprised when I fought the moon, and I really fell into the magic circle, the fictional pact of games. I really thought that this was the final boss. The music was hyping me. Yes. I was playing like in the dead of the night, and the real moon was behind me while this moon was in front of me, so I was really into it. And it genuinely surprised me because I'm so used to, let's say, the standard formulas of games. Like anything that I see in AAA mostly won't surprise me anymore because I have seen so many formulas. But here, this was unexplored territory, so in the same way, I believe no matter what happens, like the worst possible outcome of the live action, for me it could be we don't see anything else, maybe, of this anymore. I would still be very satisfied if that were the case, because we don't see enough experimentation for me in games.
I will say...
Sorry, go on, Anne. You go.
I was going to say, I will say that I'm really, really looking forward to having the conversation of who we're playing as on here, because even as someone who's seen the end, I still don't know the answer. So,
oh my god. So you...
yeah.
Okay.
I'm really looking forward to having that discussion with you guys.
You have seen all the way to the ending.
All the way to the end.
And it is interesting, so it's open to interpretation.
It is open to interpretation.
Oh, wow.
So
I think it's good that it's
The
open
blood
to
thickens.
interpretation, but
I
I'm
love
definitely interested to see how we each interpret it.
Absolutely,
I'm really because I have my theories,
Sure.
and I want to hear y'all's theories when you get there. I think that's going to be a really, really fun conversation to have.
How good. I wonder, Poppy, how did you discover this game?
I think I just found it on Twitter.
Okay.
So yeah, just saw them, and I don't even think I saw other people talking about it on Twitter. I think I just saw them on Twitter, and because I've played some escape room video games, because I love escape rooms, I love physical escape rooms, and I've played some escape room video games which I really enjoy, and yeah, there's kind of varying quality of them, and again, I think they're really interesting in terms of, much like physical escape rooms, really, yeah, varying quality, varying kind of depth of story as well. Like some are just kind of more random puzzles, and some are more, narrative driven. And yeah, I'd kind of like had a bit of a phase of playing some of those, just like short ones, on Steam. And then I saw this and was like, like escape room, card game, and then saw some of the, just the screen grabs and thought it looked, aesthetically interesting.
Absolutely.
That was it. And then it's only since that I've realized that there's like a lot of talk about it, and there's a lot of reviews that are, a lot of discussions. Look at Game Boy. Game Boy's getting involved.
He's also excited about the game, about the theories.
He's decided he's going to climb up the back of my chair so that he can
join in.
That's solid
that's
co-host
gonna say.
position. Yeah.
Right? Good job, Game Boy.
I really had this
But yeah,
question. Go ahead, Poppy.
I was just going to say, so then since I've been like saying to people about it, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like I've heard really great things about that game, or like, yeah, I love that game. And I when I like stumbled across it, hadn't realized that it, had a following, basically.
Yeah,
So yeah.
That is so surprising to me, because I was also surprised that there is this following of this game, that it has very positive reviews. But I only heard about it originally because of you, Poppy. And I like that there's these gems, not only quality games, because there are a lot of quality games, but quality games with a following that are refreshing, that are well received, and with a big publisher behind it. Devolver is a very informed, very impactful developer, and still I wouldn't have heard of it if it weren't for you. It is
Like, I think it's that I didn't hear about it from the fans and from the following. I just literally like saw their feed. So yeah, it's I'm sorry, Anne, that it's a massive card game. And like I say, I think what's interesting is that it is more cardy than I was expecting. Like a lot more cardy. And if I'd have known it was this cardy, I would have not thought that I would be interested in it. But yeah, I think I just ended up kind of being drawn in because of more of the escape element. So I kind of did the opposite of you, Javier, where I was like I said, I just wasn't paying attention to the cards at all in the beginning. So the part where, like, in the first act where you unlock the box with the there's four configurations, and you have to like play a mini card game to open the drawers on it. Like, I did all of those by luck. Like, I didn't even know like how to. I just like slid the things up and down.
We
and, like,
compared our gameplays. So you were just clicking like this, and I really got into let's count the numbers, let's find the pattern, and I did find eventually the pattern. But I'm so boring because I'm like analyzing like this.
It's just like I say, I think it was just that I was more interested in the escape element, and like I say, didn't kind of think that the card elements were that
important.
Like, so when you then unlocked all of the escape room bit, and the jar of green says to you like, oh, you just need to beat him one more time, and then I didn't realize as well that when the green thing was saying you just need to beat him one more time, he meant like one more map, not one more individual time. So I was like, well, I've beaten him one more time, like I've played one more card game and I beat him, so like why is nothing happening, nothing happening? And I think it was only when I finally got to the start of the third map that I was like, oh, okay, like maybe it's that I need to do. And so, but I was still kind of till then I'd still been kind of expecting something more to happen with, like, obviously I'd got the film, and so what I was actually expecting to happen was I kept thinking at one point you're going to die and he's going to bring out the camera to take a photo of you and you're going to be able to like grab the camera from him. So again, I still wasn't really like understanding the significance of the card game and the fact that like you actually need to continue beating that. Like I didn't realize that was actually the step in unlocking the next bit.
And
I was just like,
enjoyable.
oh, this damn card game getting
played. And it's good that, let's say, we have focused our attention into different elements. Supposedly, all of the important elements for you to finish a game should be important enough so that players can always see them, can always use them. In this case, it hasn't. In this case, naturally, you were more into the escape room part. I went more into the card game part, and we've had a great time, fortunately.
Yeah.
In this sense, how games present themselves are also it is tricky. When you presented Inscryption, when you shared it on our Discord, as always, I asked the squad if anyone wanted to recommend another game, because like in that I always forget the name of that game we didn't enjoy, because back then we jumped straight into interesting recommendations without reviewing them well enough, so that we always try now to have two recommendations so that we can analyze. So in this case, I quickly saw that it was, for me, from the screenshots on Steam, I didn't even read the description, that it was a card game. And I'm like, okay, a card game. I'm not sure if... Pathologic. Thank you. Pathologic 2, right?
I don't remember, but
or maybe it was the first one.
And I found it.
I believe it is the first one. You're right. So I didn't know if the squad enjoyed card games. I got a sense that maybe some of them won't. So that's why I didn't jump into this game. And for you, the very first impression, I don't know why, it was that it was an escape room. Maybe it's presented that way and I just didn't read the description. I'm not sure.
It says like both. It says it's like a hybrid of the two. So I knew there would be card game elements. It's just that's not the thing.
Sure.
Let me just
how tricky. Because if it were only presented in the marketing, in the official description as a card game, would you have played this game, Poppy?
No. But, okay, so this is what it says. On the store page, it says, Inscryption is an inky black card-based odyssey that blends the deck-building, roguelike, escape room-style puzzles and psychological horror into a blood-laced smoothie. Mm-hmm. Darker still are the secrets inscribed upon the cards. So what appealed to me about that was this idea of psychological horror with escape room, and these dark secret inscriptions and like blood-laced smoothie. I mean, what's not to love about a blood-laced smoothie, right? So that delicious. Was what drew me to it, and so and I don't think I watched any of the trailer. I saw the screen grabs, but I kind of am a bit anti-trailer sometimes because I think they
too. They spoil too much sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't expecting this to be, and I wouldn't have recommended it, or I wouldn't have thought that I would be interested in it as a card game, because like I say, I've not played video game card games before. Like I obviously have played card games, but not I've not done it in this format before, so
Sure.
it's not something that I would have thought that I would be drawn to. But yeah, like I say, it's interesting that you're able to kind of tinker with it from different perspectives and come in at it on different sides.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately for Anne, like the card is still like unavoidable.
That is true. I wondered, and I asked you how it's presented, because I wondered if it was presented like Portal was back in the day. So I originally got into Portal because of the orange box. So this orange box was this compilation of Half-Life games, and there was also Portal there. So before IGN, before Metacritic, I just bought my regular box and I said, oh, there's an extra like game here of just puzzles. And I was so surprised when there was far more. I loved it, I enjoyed it, especially because I thought that they had balanced their risk. Because if they had marketed Portal just like portals and puzzles and that's it, it's true, it's somewhat risky, because maybe people who like myself enjoy great stories wouldn't buy it. I don't look and buy I don't look for and buy puzzle games. But for me it was very balanced by being into the orange box. Now in the case of this game, I wondered, are they spoiling the fun? Because I was so surprised when there was this additional depth in the game. I wonder how they're marketing it, but I don't want to look at it because I don't want more spoilers. Poppy is already in charge of that area.
I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry. What I will say is that when I was talking last week about how I knew that it would look different at some point, because I'd seen like a shot of it looking more kind of like sort of more like cyberpunky, or like more, you know, neon and Tron, like, see, what am I trying to say? I only happened to see that when I was like looking up how to do something or what something meant on YouTube for it. In the store page, I hadn't noticed any of that, and
Sure.
certainly the part that I'm on now, Act 2, and the kind of aesthetic for that isn't. I'm just having a look now. I don't think it's anywhere in the store page. Like, you know, they're like top photos, they're like featured photos. It's not there, so they definitely have intentionally withheld stuff, which I think is great. Again, you know, like I say, that's why trailers. But yeah, so, but that's also why I'm like, it's interesting, because then you're like, I don't know what I'm waiting for now. Like the only thing that I knew last time was that I was like, I've seen a shot of it being more brightly colored, and so with this in the same place and in all of that, and now I'm in this totally aesthetically different, and this, you navigate the world in differently, and so I don't know like if that will continue to build. And I think it's really interesting what Jack mentioned last time of like whether like how the different aesthetics are maybe mirroring different eras of gameplay. So have you guys seen Jumanji, the Jumanji film?
Sure.
Like the newer ones? Okay, so the newer ones basically take the idea that
Camera is
like,
working on, sorry.
so with the old Jumanjis, it was like a board game, and so in the new Jumanji, they like find the board game and they're like, who plays board games? I mean, obviously, cool people do, but losers don't. So they like chuck it away,
like,
and then it transforms into a video game and into like a game set. And so that's how they then play Jumanji and get into it through a video game. So I do actually love the new Jumanji films. Like, they are really silly. But yeah, it's kind of like, I'm like, is that what's going on here? Are we going through like some kind of Jumanji-esque transformation of the medium as we go through the different acts? I don't know, because, and again, like, I don't know what else. I don't know if what I can see coming ahead is then the end, or if there's going to be another surprise, another change. So, yeah.
Well, now that the rabbit is out of the hat, we are naturally expecting, like surprise me, surprise me, surprise me. It is the double-edged sword of playing a bit with the formula. Usually, let's say in terms of narrative, once you surprise someone that you're not going to follow the formula in terms of your medium, it can be beneficial to do it, let's say, close to when you're going to finish, because otherwise you have a lot of content where you have to keep the attention of your audience. I don't know what the developer is doing. I like that, like we mentioned before, this game has some toy-like aspects that maybe help it a lot, in contrast with, let's say, other story-driven games that may have surprises, but the story is somewhat more linear. Like, you don't have a lot of room in order to reinterpret or play it in different ways in order to progress the story. So I wonder if, let's say, the ending of this game, the final surprise of the live action element, will take into account how toy-like this game is. I have seen that, for example, in the game of Telling Lies, and yeah, specifically Telling Lies. So it is a game where you can you find the footage of a crime and you can look at the footage in any order that you want. So every player naturally gets to see the crime and the solution in different ways. And according to the tapes that you saw the most, then it changes. So some players are more interested in one witness, others on another one. So it is a good consideration of how we play in different ways and how it affects the final, the outcome. Now, there are other games like Portal, for example. It doesn't matter how you approach this, or if you were expecting already this twist in the middle, the ending is the same. I wonder, because this developer has opened Pandora's box in terms of surprises. So I wonder what should be the next objective.
Well, I'm wary of not wanting to take up too many weeks of
no worries. I had an idea.
Well, no, if like, I mean, like, if Anne's like watched it all through and is like, my feeling is, so I'm not surprised that you got to the start of Act 1 in fewer hours than me, because, like I say, I think at one point I was just like, just failing a lot. Yeah, I mean, our approaches have been quite different. And it's one thing actually that I am interested if Charles does join us, because Charles previously has played things a lot quicker than me. And so, again, I think I'm pretty slow. But from what I can see of Act 2, and what I've done so far of Act 2, it's not going to take me as long.
So we can ask Anne, making use of the fact that she has seen the ending, right?
Yeah, so your playthrough was 8 hours, Anne. So how much of that was Act 1?
A large portion of it was Act 1. Act 2, it didn't seem as long. I'm not 100% sure what the time was, but it didn't come across as long.
And is Act 2 the final part?
Do you want me to actually answer that?
Okay, maybe, and you can tell us then, do you think that it is a good milestone to end Act 2 for the next conversation?
Yes, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Cool.
I like that you can...
I feel like there's going to be... This is one of those things where, like, I feel like Javier's version of finishing Act 2 is going to be different to my version of finishing Act 2.
How good, right? How good.
But I'm so interested to see where you actually are, and I'm really fascinated by that. So,
I will request Baja, our editor for the videos, that he includes the clips of these final moments.
Great.
Yeah. In our published video. Usually we just take, let's say, the good bits of gameplay, but here we can include the actual boss fight ending. Well, my boss fight. Mm-hmm.
That would be great, because I would love to, and I might go back and watch a Let's Play. So Anne, perhaps if you could send me the one that you watched, just because it seems like if it's shorter. If I find one, it'll probably be like my kind of gameplay, which is like, you know, taking a lot of time. Because I'm gonna watch that to go back to it and remember like what order my journey kind of went in, as it were. So yeah.
Eventually, we have to make use of you guys being interested in escape rooms. I like them conceptually, but I haven't had the chance to play a lot of them. And I believe that they somewhat started in Europe, right? Maybe in Italy, something like that.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah, I have the impression. Definitely not in Mexico. It's like so recent here. In the US and in Europe, there are a lot of very interesting ones, but I have the impression that they are like an European thing.
Okay. Yeah, so there's... so in Birmingham, where I work, there's like a whole kind of like street of them. Like different
cool.
ones, and so yeah, there's some great ones, but yeah, we should definitely look into doing like a live action virtual one, because you can do those as well, where you kind of so it's because of COVID, like, so you're actually physically in there's a person physically in the room, the games master, and they point the camera around, and you're all like on Zoom watching, and you tell them like what to pick up and what to move around and stuff like that. I totally
go for that.
Yeah, that would be great.
That sounds fun. The last in-person one I did was a Cold War style escape room, and you're supposed to figure out the Russian via like going through a codex type thing, and it was kind of unfair because two people in our escape room group knew Russian, so they're just like, oh yeah, it does this.
Cool.
And so we set a record because we're like, oh yeah, we skipped like a giant part of this. Whoops.
You have the right kind of game now, friends.
Yeah, let's try and maybe avoid one that's we don't want too much of art simulating life with the current political situation. So,
well, you know, I am very open in terms of how escape rooms can also allow you to overcome some real life situations. For example, my friend who introduced me to escape rooms, that's how his girlfriend and himself fell in love, something like that, because they together faced a fear of her in Italy. Yeah, I don't remember exactly which fear was it, like closed places or something like that, so the two of them were facing it together. Yeah, so I really believe that not all players are like that. Most players, or many players, are somewhat escapists in terms of the games that they're looking for. But I also see the value in games allowing you in a safer way to face real life situations.
Hope I'm not going to have to face Leshy in a real life situation though. He can stay in the game.
That guy is scary. By the way, thank you for saying his name, because I didn't know his name until you mentioned it.
You get to know like right at the end of Act 1, so.
You haven't reached that part.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to knowing where you're
I'm also
I'm just imagining that you've like accidentally just ended up like right back at the beginning, and you're never going to get to Act 2. So that's
what I mean. Please, Lesh is enough for that.
Yeah.
All right. So it's been a severe and interesting chat, and I look forward to comment with you guys. Potentially the ending. I'm not sure, because Anne won't tell. But the next part of Inscryption.
Excellent. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.